thank you again for this wonderful talk and for the invite to speak with you about what I do. When I accepted the invitation, I thought, I'll just go in and talk about my random stuff I do over time. Then I realized, oh my gosh, the audience is not ready for my random stuff. So 7 minutes means I don't know what I end up doing, but it should be exciting. So my interests are in, let me see what I can do here. My interests are in data-driven discoveries. When I was a graduate student at Penn State, actually in 1991 onwards, most of the focus in biology was experimental laboratory because data were beginning to emerge, but they were not like such huge volumes that we need to worry about big computers as much as now. But I had a background in engineering and biology, double degree, and I was primarily interested in computational biology. And so I began doing analysis of data, and over time, initially people will say, oh my gosh, you're just secondary users of the data. In biology meant, you did not do good primary research. But today, of course, everybody is doing a different discovery because the data are so. And I just found myself the right place at the right time, the right tools to make some contributions. And during this time, of course, data sizes increased, computing power increased, video cards are now being used for computing, which is something I never imagined 20 years ago, even though many people started thinking that way. So we've got to this point of intelligent and green computing. And in the field of genomics. And genomics is an area that has expanded. DNA is everywhere. There you turn DNA of TD, DNA of life, DNA of everything is now DNA become like a code word for intrinsic nature of blueprint. So that's what I do, and it's very exciting because we can now generate DNA sequence, which is a string of ATGCs, for anything and everything. We can generate such kind of information for coronavirus, or for humans, for tumors. And so because I'm a computational biologist, I don't have to be worried about a model system, and I'm interested in analyzing all of them with the help of amazing people we have in our team here at Denver. So what we do is we study mutations. And mutations are basically errors that are introduced when the copy is made of a cell. Each cell has to divide into 2 cells to 4 onwards. Our body is continuously shedding dead cells and building new cells. They're getting newer all the time. Similarly, in the case of parents, they make sperm and egg cells, which utilize to ultimately offspring. Coronavirus divides into cells. So this process of copying the DNA or RNA in the case of coronavirus, this process of copying the genetic material is not perfect. It creates errors, and errors are what we call mutations. And mutations are, in a sense, I'm being in India, I would say, spice of life. Because, if you don't have mutations, you have no variation, and a new pathogen comes in, the whole population will be wiped out. But if we have a variation population, then a few people will have some unfortunate consequences, but the rest will survive. So variation is the key component of propagating life of all kinds, adapting. So these are raw materials for what we call evolution, which is basically preserving a species or a group. And essentially, a mutation is this little part changing in our DNA, and we have, in our case, 3 billion bases, ATGCs. In the case of coronavirus, only 30,000, and we are all inside the house, and corona was outside our house. So you can see the power of genetic material. The amount you have is what you do with it, essentially. But variation creates opportunities for innovation. So mutations are of different antiquities. They may happen recently, like last few years, in the case of coronavirus genomes. They could happen years ago, like tumors. Tumors are basically byproduct of evolution of our own cells that go haywire because when you make 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8 cell stage, some cells get a variant or a mutation, causes tumor. And And then that's what happens over years, not decades, not decades. Then generations, it's the mutations we inherit from our parents, so we study that too. And then much longer time span. For example, species, if you compare humans and chimpanzees and gorillas, orangutans, they're virtually identical, but they have differences because they have come from a common ancestor with mutations. So we are interested in our institute, the number of amazing faculty members in my own group. We're interested in studying all of this. And I'm going to not go through all of these with you, but I give you an idea that at Temple, we are doing, many of us are doing some really cool, cutting edge, front research that is really helping humankind in different ways. So what we do is, in the institute and in my group, we develop methods and algorithms. Ultimately, machine learning, artificial intelligence is simply algorithms and methods. It is nothing more than that, and of course, hardware that it runs on. We build software and databases. We actually take this big data and make analyses that are very useful for their basic biomedicine, basic bioscience, that other researchers use them to build upon. And then we, of course, also try to translate some of the knowledge we have into information that can be acted upon. So for example, we have built a time tree of all life on Earth. Temple is the primary holder of the tree of life scale to time with more than 150,000 species. You can go to this website, timetree.org, and you can ask, how far apart do I and a banana have a common ancestor? And you do. You also tomatoes are relative. And so if you think about this 1.4 billion years or so, in that case, pretty far, you're okay. But that is what you can inquire from Temple's website, with that resource. The other thing we do is we're also interested in taking variation that all of us have in our genome. Each one of us is unique, and we carry specific errors. Most of them are not problematic, but some are. So when you think about unique disease like cystic fibrosis, hemophilia, or cancers, that's because of these variations. And so we like to predict if a child or an adult has a specific mutation, what would you do? So that's a big field of personalized medicine that we also do. Now coming to learn AI, until recently, we used to do statistical methods shown in the dotted box here. Assumptions, distributions, fun, mean, variance, correlations, all these things, all kind of bounded, nice and clean equations, mostly maddening but exciting. But then comes machine learning, which does not follow any of those rules, doesn't want to do any of that stuff, and it just does whole bunch of things in which we don't actually directly use a model. We don't directly use an assumption. We don't make all of these simplifying ideas about how the nature works. All you do is take all the data you have, like you heard from that 2,900 PDFs, and say, hey, represent them in a way, and then conclude on them, and then answer questions. That's completely different from our normal statistical analysis. So we have, over the last few years, transformed our own research to develop complementary methods to what we have been developing and will continue developing in statistics. And so there, the modeling is data-driven. You're not trying to start with a so-called, you hear normal distribution or Gaussian distribution. We simply say, hey, here is the data. What do you see? And of course, there are methods and models that we use within machine learning, but they are not the same as statistics, as I said. So let me give you a couple of examples. And so what we do is, if you take the proteins that your body has, thousands of proteins we make in the body, so that the whole body works in a proper way, to take all of their sequences, which are basically a string of characters, 20 letters of amino acids, all of them, from not only humans, from every species that we know. That would be millions and hundreds of millions of proteins. And just like 2,900 PDFs, you give all of them to a large language model like ChatGPT is based on, and say, hey, learn patterns. it will learn patterns. And then that is what we call a model. And in this pattern, what it has learned is how best to predict missing information in this collection. If you go to forget some information, then how well can this neural network recover that information? So that's the model that you see here in the blue ball here. That's called a foundation model. It means it's not supposed to do anything other than being able to predict what you forgot. And then, of course, smart people in various ways were able to figure out that this can be used for many things. So in my field, we can now use this model to predict which mutation that you may be carrying or I may be carrying could cause a disease or could be non-neutral or problematic. It can also tell us which part of our proteins are more important than which other parts. So these things we used to infer using complicated statistical methods in my field of molecular evolution and phylogenetics. Now, the machine learning is complicated, but once somebody does it, it's just, hey, here is my protein, can you tell me how bad it's going to get? So it's not just asking a question about where do I find which course is offered by Tempo or when was it last taught, or this is really about their own personal genome. And there's been our testing these things, and many other people are actually more so. They found that these are very accurate compared to statistical methods we could develop. So this is a triumph for machine learning based modeling. Another one is, suppose you go see a doctor and the doctor says, well, I feel that I'm in the 22nd century or something, I'm going to take your DNA and I'm going to tell you all the mutations you're carrying. We have 3 billion places and we have mutations that happen in our parents, their parents' parents, their parents' parents. You carry many of them, maybe millions and millions of them, actually. So, I'm sorry, we are all mutants in that way. You can actually spend a lot of money to generate a complete catalog of all the mutations a person is carrying. But biomedically, that's very expensive. And I'm sure the insurance won't pay for it. If you do, the premiums will go to the roof. But instead, what we found is, many people have done to do is, they take a fraction. Oh, I think this is going on. Okay, they take a chip, and this chip basically interrogates 500,000 positions, which or to 1 million, that it knows has some variation in many people. And then that information can now be used to, using machine learning, impute rest of the 95% missing information. So, with the help of people in computer science, my colleagues, Shi and a student Irfan here, we are able to develop a machine learning model that fills in 95% of missing information based only on 5% of the information. So 20 times increase, and the accuracy of that modeling is 99.9%. So you can imagine how much money saving that is, and that can happen pretty quickly. So what this means is that yes, machine learning model costs money, but once you develop them, those foundation models, they can be used by anybody. And so thousands and thousands, maybe millions of people can use them. So data centers, like Larry mentioned, can help us build these giant models. The giant models require lots and lots of GPUs and lots and lots of time and memory. But once you build this model, then you can just use it. And the using is very cheap. So computationally expensive to build a model, but then now every doctor, every scientist can interrogate for any species. If you want to find out in this bacterium, in this protein, does making this mutation cause it to become more pathogenic or not? You can ask that question to these kind of machines. So I would say is that by having an AI model that is universal, global, and to compute once or twice or 10 times, you create a lot of greenhouse gas. But then its use allows you to not have to redo the analysis like you would today for each data set, for each species, for each protein. But you have a single model to to rule them all, like, Lord of the Rings situation. So this is the kind of a ring that is offered. So this is one greener aspect on it. And remember, sometimes we don't think about how costly it is for people to do the analysis. So even though we can save time and money and earth by doing computationally, by doing analysis of small pieces of data, human cost is huge. It takes sometimes humans days or weeks to analyze the data in a standard way. Using machine learning way, with a foundation model, it can actually be instantaneous. So you save all this time for a human, like a person like me, so that is a huge plus. And I would say, ChatGPT has made me a poet. Now I write poems for my wife's birthday, my mother-in-law's birthday. I could never become a poet on my own. So I don't know if that's the best. I don't know a good problem, but I'm definitely a poet. And I can write in any style I want. So that's really good. So I think that's very important to see that the cost is there, but the opportunities are there too. So this is balance between the two. And I want to finish by telling you that at Temple, a VP of Research, with Josh Gladden, we have set up a new initiative called Evolutionary Fellows of AI Research. It's primarily for the my field area, but it can be implemented by anything else. We have all these researchers like Yusuf gives you a poll. I don't know what to do, I'm not confident, I don't know how AI can help us. AI is a tsunami that is overcome all of us. Whether we believe it or not, whether we like it or not, it's going to get us. So the question is, before it gets us, let's learn to surf. And that's where I would say we want to bring temporal faculty into the fold. So a data-driven PI is wondering what to do. I think AI is good. In my own research, how can I use it? And they're confused. How best to use it? How will it help me? We are going to help buddy them up with a research engineer who will help them translate their questions into real models, will help them learn how to model using AI, and suddenly it can sort of let them see the light. And in some cases it will fail, other cases it will pass. So success will only happen if we try. And then hopefully, then these faculty members and researchers can also impart this knowledge, the real working knowledge, to students and other members of the group. So the idea here is to build Tempo as a community that is ready to go with AI. So if you have interest in research in genomics or anything else in which you need some expert advice on how to implement a model, how to build a new model, you can contact us and we can maybe help you in some cases. Thank you so much.